And the little graphic says, I am now live. And I believe that to be true, as I pinch myself, yes, I am not in a dream, or am I? Perhaps it's a waking dream or a waking nightmare that is evolving around us. We shall soon find we shall soon taste the fruits of this emergent reality. I'm going to change my glasses. I got my dorky black ones on. Michael Pafford, welcome. You got yourselves a vaccine declaration from your despotic and tyrannical Mussolini-like governor. I think we're all headed in the same direction eventually. Let's go with these today. Double C, Craig Corporon in the house. What's going on, brother? Natalie Remington, good morning. Good to see you here. We're going to hang out and let the, it's not really the masses, I guess the select few, the new elite, right, inside chat to assemble here. Let's see, who else? Michael, Sister Nino, DJ MC, he's here. Mark Matheny, hey Mark, what's going on? MK, nice to see you, Earthlings. He's definitely a capo de cap. Yes, he is. He is a crime boss. T. Jordan in the house, good to see you. There she is, Ashanti Edwards. Morning, Ashanti. Christine Mose. Nice to see you, Christine. Presence always welcome. Here, let's see, who else do we have? We can see some more all-star mods. There's Natasha. Morning, Natasha. Let's see. We got Natasha. We got Natalie. A little bit of a slow emergence here today. That's fine. I'm a little. I guess I'm not really on time, but I'm not really that far out of time as well. It is 9 a.m. here, or at least it was when I hit that little button. And I have a lot to cover today, and some of it will not be all that warm and fuzzy when it comes to the guy who is really doing everything in his power, theoretically, to hold on to his position inside the White House. We'll talk about that. Oh, great show with it. Thank you. So yes, Heather and I did a forecast for the next few months, and that's over on her channel. I'll post a link here, and always a pleasure working with Heather Eland, the prodigious manifester, and really one of the stars of the astrological internet community. Danica Rose, 10 Dragon, Lisa Marie, Beth Berry, Shannon Jones in the house, Double V, Victoria, Ian Barber, Coach K. Great show with Heather. Yep, I always love working with Heather. Charles Mazak, Texas, lawsuit stuff. Yep, I'm gonna try to get into that and peel that back a little bit. We're juxtaposing realities now. Ursula, I promise today I will get back with you. Yesterday I was exhausted. I was really exhausted. I was super deep tired. It takes a lot to process some of the information and energy. It takes a lot. And I'm not complaining. It is what it is, and it's my gig. It's why I'm here. But it does take a lot. And yesterday, with Judy passing on, and kind of dealing with that emotion, and then dealing with the same day the meeting at City Hall. It's just and of course working with clients. It takes an energetic toll in some ways. Yesterday I was just really exhausted. So Ursula, I promise I'll get back to you today. You have my word on that. Dawn Hart, the mayor is in Houston. Look out, Houston. Houston, you got a problem. The mayor is there. Texas changes everything. Look at the city of 2000. Yeah, we'll get into that a little bit. I do want to talk about that. You got a 10 p.m. curfew now because 6,000 people caught a cold. Yep. Hi, Susan Cano. Good to see you. Misty Miner in the house. All right, we got Thor by the door, the one and only Steve Mercer. Pam Jerome from Michigan. Nancy Harding. Yep. She loved the show too. Big lockdown coming to Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, going to be announced today. Oh, yeah. Why do you think they're locking people down now? They're locking people down to vaccinate people. That's what's happening. No snow in Dakotas. We usually have it this time of year, and now in upper 40s and 50s. You know what's really interesting? I was going to bring this up. Photos of Judy. You could go, JP, join the group. Join the 11th House group over on Facebook. Natasha Lloyd posted some wonderful photos there of Judy. Okay, so go there and you can do that. Gardening can help. I do garden, by the way. I do garden. I have a little garden in the back, but it is not really the emotional toll. The emotional toll is really physical. The physical and generating the energy. So yesterday I was really knackered, as they say over on the other side of the pond. Speaking of which, Ralph Winter has joined us, as well as Leon Luis. I have this theory that when you're tired, that you should do something physical. I know it flies in the face, but I was really tired and I went to the gym and I worked out, and it seemed to be a good thing. It seemed to bring my energy up. Scrubbies, Wyoming, commies have gone full retard. Yeah, so California, they had a weird, I was actually talking with somebody from California when that strange Amber Alert kind of came across. So yeah, that was like very sad to hear about Judy. To our local shelter. Oh, that's great. Well, that's a good thing to do. You know, I was thinking about what would be good to do something in, Judy's remembrance. And she's going to have a proper funeral next year. That's what the family told me. And, so I think, I'll stay in touch with Judy's family and then we maybe figure something out. I don't know what. We'll do something to remember her and, keep her memory alive in some way, shape, or form. I'm not really big on giving flowers to, funerals and stuff. I mean, they're fine. But they ultimately, they're there for the moment, and then people leave and, they die, the flowers die. So I'm not real big on that. So we'll figure something out. What happened to the flu season? Oh, good question. All right, Ani's here. Good to see you, Ani. Haven't seen Uncle Glenn in a couple days. I don't know where he is. I love this. Snake Jones, don't wear a mask, wear a Glock. Yeah, it might come down to that. Electronics in California went haywire yesterday for everyone I spoke to. It's bizarre. Mary Black here. Hi, Mary. Susan's a florist. I had a gig for a while. I have a funeral plant from 1987. Oh, well, that's good. A plant. There you go. Plant keeps the memory alive. There you go. Thank you, Tondar. Plant keeps. That's a good point. Very good point. I like the idea of planting memorial trees. Maybe we could do that for you. Plant a memorial tree somewhere. That would be cool. Well, I think maybe we wait till next year, and we'll do it someplace special. We'll find a place for her. Maybe in her hometown where she passed. Judy went back to where she was in Texas for a while, and then she went back. She wound up, I think, getting a place on government assistance or something like that. I might be wrong there, but she wound up going back to her hometown in Missouri, which was, I think, a good thing for her. That she was able to return to the place that she, was born or grew up in. So maybe we can do a tree there in her place. That's a good idea. By the Guadalupe River, that might not be bad. That might not be bad, but maybe where she lived, when she passed. I don't know. We'll figure it out. We don't have to have any hard and fast rules. I'm slinging flowers. Do you know her favorite flowers? I don't. Susan, you can. Why don't you just send me an email and we'll figure that out. Watch John Cullen on YouTube to find out about the flu reporting. Very interesting. Memorial tree at the Chatlandia compound. The Chatlandia cult compound. Oh yes. Me and my two cult members, Jasper and Rosie. I think I'm in their cult. I think that the accusations of the cult are correct. Only I'm in their cult, not the other way around. I'm glad she was at home. Ain't that the truth, Pam? Ain't that the older people in our society are having a very difficult time. Really difficult time right now. And Judy was older, but she wasn't like, nursing home older. Okay. So, but they are. I have a dear friend who watches the show, Marianne, up in the northern Michigan area. And she's just going through a hell of a time. In the last 4 months, she lost her husband, who had been sick for a while. One of her kids went off the res, which is code. Another one of her kids has completely disconnected from her and does not communicate with her at all. And she had to put down her dog yesterday. I mean, that's a hell of a lot, right? Those are the trials of Job. And Marianne, who looks great for her age, is, she's older and now she's isolated. And this is a terrible thing. Isolation is a terrible thing. It's just one of the worst things that can happen to humanity. Now, I've been isolated, right? And well, it's not really good for me. I could go for periods of time where I'm okay with being by myself. But by and large, it is the worst medicine for the human species. So I want to get into that, and I want to get into Operation Warp Speed, and try to really speak some truth here around where we are with this and where we are with Trump around this, and I have to talk about it because it's important. And do I want Trump over Biden? It's not necessarily a slam. I would say it's pretty much a slam dunk with an asterisk, with a serious asterisk. I'm also going to talk about a rumor, a very plausible rumor that I ran across this morning regarding Joe Biden. So we're going to get into all this and a lot more on today's show. So here we go. I'm dead serious about the Chatlandia compound. Okay, well, Ryan, who I don't see today. Hi, Nicholas. Good to see you. Ryan, who I don't see in chat today. Maybe he's here. I remember reading somewhere that Virgos are most likely to become cult leaders. David Koresh was a Virgo. So I will say, in all honesty and transparency, that I was actually jealous of David Koresh for a while. I was like, man, that guy's got a good gig, right? He's got a good gig. It was around 1992. I thought he's got a good gig, this Koresh guy. That's when I first heard about him. There's tons of land cheap where I live. I've talked about a long time ago on Facebook. I'm going to get into some Facebook stuff today. A long time ago on Facebook, I threw out the idea of people offering up $10,000, and $10,000 times, I don't know, 250 people would be $250,000. And there are certain areas of this country where $250,000 would buy you a decent piece of land. but that would be your buy-in, right? And then we figure out how to parcel all that up. I actually found a piece of land in Alabama. It was like freaking gorgeous. It was 400, I think it was 450 or 500 acres. I mean, there's a lot of acreage. 500 acres, I think it was. And it had water access, like serious water access. And it was only like $550,000. I'm like, geez, you could do something with that land. You could definitely do something. Look at this. Snake just bought a 31-acre farm. I'm a Virgo rising. Does that count? Gemini. Christine, you are definitely cult leader material. Okay. You know, it's kind of like you know, how Elijah Muhammad spun off and created the Nation of Islam, right? Because that was a spin-off of an original sort of Islamic, you know, sort of black science group, right? So you could be the spin-off group, Christine. All right, let's do a little invocation here. We'll kind of get a little serious, hopefully, because there's a lot to talk about. So, okay, dear blessed Holy Mother, Father God of the great central sun within the universal light, which is the light of Yeshua, Sananda, Manuel, we ask the only the highest and best information, truth, and wisdom come through this channel at this time. For everyone watching, viewing, and participating. In so doing, we also embrace the qualities of clarity, truth, justice, communication, discernment, boundaries, commitment, fidelity, flexibility, strength, courage, heart, acumen, humor, strength, empathy, compassion, and above all, love. We ask any karma or grizzly be cleansed, purified, clarified, and removed from this stream right now. Let's get to it. So I want to start with Alex Jones. That's where I want to start. I watched Alex Jones last night make a tortured, and I mean absolutely tortured case for martial law. It would, and by the way, I'm going to go on record. I am not opposed to martial law in the right circumstance. Okay, in the right, I'm not opposed to it. In the wrong circumstance, I'm 100% opposed to it. But what's happened now is that these conditions have been created and fomented so that we are on the precipice of martial law coming from the Trump administration. And it is being led by people like Linwood and even Michael Flynn. Now, look, in a case where clearly the republic, the country is under attack, you should probably declare it to remove the traitorous entities that are being subversive and embedded, right? You have to do something. You have to do something. That said, I want to go back and look at some timeline stuff. Now, Alex Jones was making this case that when the founding fathers rebelled against the crown, that they did so as a form of martial law. So Alex Jones was making this tortured case that 1776 was really about martial law. No, it was about a declaration of war. That's what it was about. They were declaring war against the so-called crown, right? And if you play around with it enough, there are people who will even say that that might have been a bit of a false flag started by, guess what, Freemasons. And yes, Paul Revere was a Freemason. Samuel Adams was a Freemason. Okay, George Washington was a Freemason. You know, so you have Freemasons, Rosicrucians that are embedded in that time frame. Now, that said, Freemasonry gets remade in 1776 the same time that the American Revolution is happening. This is when Adam Weishaupt infiltrates the Bavarian lodges of Freemasonry. So there's kind of this thing happening with Freemasonry during that time, right? So I think that there was probably a different form of Freemasonry before 1776, and then a different form that evolves after 1776, where theoretically the Illuminati get involved with Freemasonry. Now, again, I think that a lot of the so-called symbols that we have been accustomed to as being bad, or some of these sigils that we've been accustomed to as, or taught as being evil, I'm not sure that that's actually the case. And I know that this sounds heretical, and maybe it is. But if you go back and you really study the Tartarian, sort of technology, what is Antiquitech? That's what John Levi calls it. I mean, the symbols coming out of the spires of the churches, or the onion domes of the churches, they're sigils. It's what they are. These are sigils, and they're sigils that I believe are transmitting wireless technology. And you look at the layouts of these former civilizations, and they look like blueprints, grid blueprints from a software board. It's exactly what they look like. So I believe that there was an actual application of these symbols, and then these as it relates to a certain kind of technology in an esoteric sense. And then what happened is that they were hijacked and most likely inverted, and then used as a negative application. And then the people who were interpreting this from a Christian standpoint saw this as being evil. And in a lot of ways, they were right because of the inverted use behind them. But I believe there's another use prior to that, which was much more integrated. Okay, so I just want to be, kind of clear about that. Anyway, we're going to talk about symbols today, and one very specific symbol that is quite powerful. But Alex Jones is promoting a version of martial law, and he's relating it to this 1776 thing. And he's making a real hard. So this is the thing that Alex Jones has always railed against. He's always railed against martial law. Now he's an advocate for martial law. I think there was a time in the recent past, meaning March of 2020, where I think they should have called martial law. I really do. And I've talked about this before. I think as soon as Jay Inslee opened his mouth and there was the first so-called coronavirus case in Washington State, knowing what we know now about Jay Inslee, about Washington State and Oregon and California, it was somebody who was sick. And they brought that person into an elder care facility. They were older, they were in their 60s, but they brought them into that elder care facility. Now, all of a sudden, all these people are being tested for coronavirus, and they have, what do? They start intubating these people. And these elder care facilities, these senior homes, whatever you want to call them, really became the death camps. And that is where the fatalities start to get racked up. As soon as that happened, Trump should have declared martial law. As soon as that happened, he should have said, we're shutting. I mean, like, it shouldn't have taken till March 13th. Like, this should have happened in what? February. You declare martial law, you shut down all the borders, you shut down all the flights, boom, it's done. Done. Then you take over the networks. Take them over. CNN, MSN, you just take them over, right? Interstate commerce, you take it over with the idea that it will be protected. And during that period and that phase, they could have easily removed any like nodal point of Antifa, BLM, the so-called sex traffickers and adrenochrome bandits and the enemies of the state. They could have taken over Facebook. They could have taken over YouTube. They could have taken over Twitter, right? Could have done it. All under a blanket martial law. And then guess what happens? You get really the identified enemies of the state. You round them up, right? It is a 30-day phase. You don't bring Fauci in. You don't bring Birx in. You go to MSNBC and CNN and ABC and CBS and Fox News, and you say, okay, we're going to allow you to activate your broadcast license. Oh, by the way, you'll notice that there's some people that are no longer working for you. But we're going to do it now. We're going to turn the broadcast license back on, and here's your script. Coronavirus is over. In the 30-day period, we're shutting everything down. We stopped it. That's the script. You understand that? Are you clear about that? And you get them to sign papers, and boom, it's done. You flip it back on, and they praise the president, and they praise what happened. And by the way, if there are people who were like Adam Schiff or whoever, and they were gone, then the administration comes in and basically says, this is what happened. We found that these people were traitors, that they have all the evidence lined up, and they roll it out. They roll it out. You take care of the nodal points from Antifa and BLM, and none of that shit that went down in the summer happens. Now, I would have been okay with that martial law. We never get Fauci. We never get Birx. And we own the situation, and there's a big middle finger, a big fuck you. It's bullshit. It's a bullshit virus. Take control. But no, what do we get? We get the slow creep. We get March 13th. We get April 13th. 6 months goes by. They could have rescinded that order. They don't. And now it's Operation Warp fucking Speed, right? Warp Speed. Does that mean Trump is complicit with the deep state? Do the math. I think Trump is a wild card, and Trump will play any side. He was a Democrat. Now he's a Republican. He said I'm a globalist. He said I'm a nationalist. He's made these statements. And again, I've been very clear about my position on Trump. He is a wild card. He is here to bring chaos. And I am not opposed to chaos. I'm okay with chaos. Chaos has, in some ways, woken people up. It's woken people up. It's brought about this idea of fake news and programming and propaganda. That's the role that he has played in my book. And I would still take the chaos of Trump over the complicit and known treachery of Biden. You have to understand that when Trump got elected, he was surrounded by Goldman Sachs people. Surrounded by Goldman Sachs people. His number one donor was Sheldon Adelson. One of his number two donors was Bernie Marcus. Bernie Marcus coming out of Home Depot. And one of his other big donors was Paul Singer. And Paul Singer is the guy that absolutely gutted and ruined Cabela's. Okay. So there are people in Trump's inner circle that are incredibly deep state entrenched. And this cannot be denied. Cannot be denied. Wilbur Ross, who's the Secretary of the Treasury, works for the Rothschilds. Wilbur Ross bailed Trump out. Okay. So did George Soros. I'm just being honest now. I am being honest. You go back and look at Trump Tower in Chicago. George Soros bailed him out. George Soros has ties to the Kushner family. George Soros has been a real estate partner with Jared Kushner and his brother. Jared Kushner has deep ties to Chabad. Okay, deep ties to Chabad. So Donald Trump like anybody in power, will use power as an ends to a mean, or means to an end, rather. By the way, John F. Kennedy did it. John F. Kennedy's father made a deal with Sam Giancana to help Kennedy get elected. John F. Kennedy's father made a deal with Meyer Lansky to help JFK get elected. Okay. Bugsy Siegel, Meyer Lansky, his father did business with all these people. And Giancana in the mafia helped JFK get elected. Same with the so you had the Cosa Nostra and the Kosher Nostra, and they helped JFK get elected. It was an upset. It was an absolute upset. So what did JFK do? Well, Bobby started going after Sam Giancana and the mob. He went after him. Right? And it was like, there are pictures of JFK in Vegas at the same show that Marilyn Monroe is singing at, and Sam Giancana's there, and Bobby's there, and they're all like hanging out. But then they decided to turn. Bobby was a Scorpio. And you know what a Scorpio does? It stinks, right? So it was like, he can't help it. He's got to go after Sam Giancana. So they went after Sam Giancana. And one of the rules that Kennedy had to follow was that he would leave Israel alone and allow Israel to develop a nuclear reactor at Ashkelon. And that didn't happen. That did not happen. Kennedy was not a, how should we say, a good friend of Israel. And he and David Ben-Gurion they did not see eye to eye at all. And Kennedy was strictly opposed to the development of the nuclear plant at Ashkelon, which exists and nobody wants to talk about. Mordecai Vanunu broke that story a long time ago. That's an interesting story, by the way, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. So JFK was surrounded by very, very powerful people, right? That's how the game works. You don't get elected. I have no illusions. Like American politics is a dirty fucking game. So Trump, in order to help himself get elected, surrounded himself with the group that he knew had the most power and sway. Well, remember, Trump he did real estate in New York City. And who did he do real estate with? He did real estate with a lot of rich Jewish realtors in New York. Stephen Ross, who owns the Miami Dolphins, is one of them, right? Larry Silverstein, the eventual owner of the Twin Towers, is another. And these are just a few. So these are the people that Trump knew and did business with. They were people of power and money, okay? And Trump comes from outside the bloodlines. He does not have the bloodlines. He doesn't. Now, he may go back to Scotland. He may have some of that shit. But he comes from a very different sort of group. He's an outsider. And so he identifies with Jewish power as an outsider influence. One of his mentors was Roy Cohn, right? So all you need to know. So he identifies with these people. This is part of his upbringing. He was not somebody, he's not a Van Dyne, he's not a Van Buren, he's not an Astor. He has more in common with Larry Silverstein and Stephen Ross than he does with that group. So that's his power base. And of course, they basically, marry. It's like a royal marriage between Ivanka and Jared. And of course, Jared being one heartbeat away from Bibi Netanyahu, who slept in Jared's bed in New Jersey at the home of Jared's father. They kicked Jared out of his bed. Jared had to go sleep on the couch while Bibi slept in his bed. Okay, so these are the links between Trump and power. The other links between Trump and power are the Christian evangelicals, who are kind of linked to that. They're linked to Zion. They're Christian Zionists. So you have people like Paul White and Franklin Graham. These are people that surround Donald Trump, Mike Pence, the Dominionists. So that's another power base, but they're all sort of intermingled, right? You don't get elected without a power base. Barack Obama had a power base. Barack Obama's power base comes out of literally the Communist Party of Russia, right? It comes out of Russia, it comes out of the CIA, it comes out of the World Banking Group, specifically the IMF and the World Bank that his mother worked for. Bill Ayers, the red diaper babies, the new social Marxists and their networks. That's Barack Obama's power base. The Pritzkers from Chicago, and the Pritzker family now leading the charge for the transsexual revolution, right? You don't get elected without a power base. Bill Clinton had a power base. He had the Dixie Mafia. He had the Bush family. He intertwined with the Bush family and the Bush family crime cartel in all their groups, right? You don't get elected without a power base. Sorry, it doesn't happen. It does not happen. Even Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was a member of the Trilateral Commission, and the globalists and the internationalists, they're the ones that got Jimmy Carter elected. He narrowly defeated Gerald Ford. How did Gerald Ford become president? Well, they kicked Nixon out. They impeached Nixon, and Ford was placed there because they got Spiro Agnew on some minor corruption charge. So he had to leave. Nixon sacrifices Agnew. Ford comes on board. What did Ford do? Ford was a member of the Warren Commission. He was one of the guys that rubber stamped, the ceiling of the Kennedy assassination. He is also, one of the freaks that shows up in Kathy O'Brien's book. Gerald Ford is, his name isn't even Gerald Ford. It's Leslie King. He gets on board. He's not elected. Right? He's not elected, but there's a power base behind Ford that gets him in there. And the power base was ultimately to get Nelson Rockefeller to become the fucking president. There were 2 assassination attempts on Jerry Ford's life. It doesn't matter, like, if you're a made man. It doesn't matter. They will sacrifice their made men, like Bernie Madoff. They will sacrifice them, like Harvey Weinstein. They'll sacrifice them. Bill Cosby, there's another sacrificial goat. Bill Cosby is a high-level Mason, and they sacrificed his ass. They always send a message. They send a message. Look, look, look. You see what happened here? See what happened here? There were 2 assassination attempts on Gerald Ford. Somehow, he managed to evade both. One was with Sarah Moore, who was a former Manson family member, So the idea was to knock him off and get Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller, to be president. Because back then, nobody would vote for a Rockefeller for president. No, it would not happen. It would not happen. Americans still had some presence of mind, right? So they had to backdoor Rockefeller. He was kind of running things. He was kind of running things for a couple of years, but they were not going to. Gerald Ford evaded. It's like, Chevy Chase was always kind of imitating Gerald Ford and the malaprops, and he would trip and do all that shit, right? Because Ford was a klutz. He would hit golf balls into people's heads at golf tournaments. He was awkward. He played football without a helmet, okay? But they didn't kill him. Now, Jimmy Carter comes in, and he's propped up by the internationalists. They want him in. They want him in. They want him to begin the internationalist transition. That's the role that Carter's supposed to play. Reagan was a made man. He was a total made man. And I've got into how Reagan was made. Lou Wasserman, one of the biggest kingmakers in Hollywood, helped Ronald Reagan get elected. Ronald Reagan had the backing of the Hoover Institute, George Shultz, Caspar Weinberger, and the young neocons who had cut their teeth in the Nixon administration were there also to help Reagan get pushed across the finish line. You go back and you watch the 1980 election where Reagan just lances Jimmy Carter. They're calling that election in the first 90 minutes. Watch it. Go back and watch it. It's if you are a Democrat and you don't like Reagan, it is so fucking demoralizing. And the thing you'll see is that the red states are Democratic and the blue states are Republican. Somewhere along the way, the timeline got flipped. Reagan's a made man. Done. They're all made men. And so is Trump. Make no illusions about it. He's an outsider. And the one thing that I said from the beginning, and to this day, I still will utter the ultimate statement about Donald Trump, besides him being a maverick and the Lord of Chaos, is you cannot trust him. And that goes for even his closest associates. Why? Astrologically, he has a Mercury-Jupiter square and a Mercury-Neptune conjunction. Can't trust him. Can't trust him. And that's a good thing, and that's a bad thing. And when he's got a Sun-Uranus conjunction, is a wild card. It can go in any different direction. So we're going to see now, really, we're going to see in the course of the next couple of weeks how this thing is going to unfold. Because Operation Warp Speed is coming right at you. Let me show you one of the casualties of this past year. And I think these are important. We have to just stop for a moment amidst all the election turmoil, which I am going to get into, by the way. All the election turmoil, to understand that people's lives are being shattered. They're being ruined. Their businesses are being taken away from them. Restaurants are being closed. Simple businesses, foolproof, recession-proof businesses, like getting a haircut or having your hair styled or having your nails done. These are things that if you wanted to start a business, you'd have to really fuck that up, right? And you may not get rich, but guess what? You'll have a steady clientele feeding you anywhere between $15 and $45. Okay, those are almost recession-proof. Oh, guess what? Yeah, they're not essential anymore, right? So all these businesses have taken a massive hit. And we all know that the box stores and the chains stay open. They all stay open. And it's ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. And we know where a lot of that stimulus money went to not only keep them alive, but to allow them to invest in ongoing improvements and amplification of their infrastructure. So amidst all of that, let us just take one moment to recognize a casualty of what's allowed to take place. I'm going to do that right now. This is from Mail Online. Victim of remote learning, 16-year-old takes his own life and leaves notes saying he felt locked in the house after his classes moved online. As his mom says, I just lost a son because he couldn't be with his friends. Spencer Smith, a sophomore at Brunswick High School who worked 2 jobs and loved football, died Friday. He left behind a note saying he felt like he was locked in this house. Spencer's devastated father, Jay Smith, said he'd been feeling isolated from his friends, had stopped playing football, and was taking more naps. Most of his classes had moved online with one day of, let me close this fucking thing. Get the fuck away, please. Because he felt isolated from his friends. Smith said his son struggled even more when his dreams of being a lineman for the football team were dashed when the sport was replaced by flag football. He warned other parents, because they don't have linemen in flag football. You don't block. You don't tackle. He warned other parents that social distance ain't working for the kids. CDC research shows mental health issues, particularly among young adults, have increased during the pandemic. All right, let's look at this poor young man right here. A Maine teenager, 68, has died by suicide after struggling with COVID-19 isolation when his school went to virtual learning. Spencer Smith, a sophomore at Brunswick High School who worked 2 jobs, loved football, died Friday, leaving behind a note revealing that he felt like he was locked in the house. Spencer's devastated father, Jay Smith, has spoken out to warn parents about social distancing. Here he is. Students all across America are forced to adjust to a new normal. Many schools have switched to at least partial virtual learning with coronavirus cases, deaths. This bullshit. But it's a level of isolation many are struggling with, and Smith believes children should be back to school. Be back to the right school. The Maine teenager, this is him on the football field. Look at that, number 66. Oh, that's an interesting number, isn't it? By the way, that is a number for a lineman. That is the number that a lineman would wear. It would be 66. Wow. Before he died, Spencer's dad said he'd been feeling isolated from his friends, stopped playing football. There you go. Smith said his son struggled even more. Okay, we saw that. As soon as he found out it wasn't going to be regular football season, looking back, we noticed he stopped working out. He stopped riding his bike as much to the point where he didn't even work out anymore. This is terrible. This remote learning is, what is that? Crap. I just lost a son because he couldn't be with his friends. What the fuck? He was born on September 11th? I'm just clicking into this. September 11th, 2004. This thing is bizarre. The synchromysticism of this thing is wild, right? This is wild shit right here. I mean, my God, look at this. Number 66. That is a lineman's number. This is not a LARP, okay? This is not a LARP. In football, they have sequences for numbers. Receivers are usually in the 80s, sometimes the teens. Running backs are in the 20s. Quarterbacks are single digits. Linemen are in the 60s or 70s. Middle linebackers and linebackers are in the 50s. Defensive backs are in the 30s and the 20s. And he was born on 9/11. What's the message here? Spencer was played by Flat. This is Maine, right? This is what, Janet Mills country? Philip Potenziano, the superintendent of the school department, said in a statement that counseling bereavement support services is available for students. It's really important if your child's not feeling well. Fuck you. Fuck you. I hope, you know what? I don't want a kid to die. I hope this is real. I hope this is real. I hope this isn't some bullshit LARP. And the name of the team is the Dragons. Oh my God. Like, is this like fucking synchromistic or what? I would give anything to have the noise back. He hated what society was. I hope it's not a LARP. I really hope it's not a LARP. Look at that. September 11th. 16 years old. Wow. If this thing is real, like, there's so much going on. There's so much unintentional symbolism here. It's mind-blowing. What do you guys think about this? What do you think about this? The story about the young man's life represents the future breach. What do you think about this? What do you think about the synchromysticism? I mean, if this thing is real, he's wearing number 66, and he's born on September 11th. What do you think about this? It's mind blowing, right? If this is true and it's not a LARP, it is fucking mind blowing. Yes, 9/11, 9/11. No, it wasn't 2001. No, it was 2004. The numbers are too real. 9/11, 2004. Yeah, so so there are sequences for numbers in football. Yep. That is crazy. That is totally crazy. Miranda has a really interesting comment here. Have you all noticed that this age group was targeted to normalize suicide the few years before 2020? Yeah. Is the death of alignment programming for breaking down our boundaries? You're the walrus. Beautiful observation, because it's the line that separates us, right? The line is really, if you think about this, this is a great point. Chatlandia, you're firing all cylinders. The line represents a border of immunity for the quarterback. The quarterback is like the head or the body of the team. And you have people that are trying to break through the, think of that as some kind of bacterial invasion, some kind of fungal invasion. And the line is supposed to protect the quarterback, right? And theoretically, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to hold the line. That is one of the key like commandments or mandates when you're in battle. Hold the line. Don't let the line break. If the line breaks, then there's a breach in the line. The only time you let a line break is when it's intentional. Great pickup. Marx has predictive programming. Could he have been targeted? Well, maybe. But sometimes it's like, there's an analogy. Targeting, like when you go to catch a big fat tuna, right? You have to target a big fat tuna. You have to throw out one line and you like haul that tuna in. Theoretically, you cannot catch a tuna in a trawl net. You can't do it. It's against the law. Theoretically, I'm sure people do it. But a trawl net is what they'll do in Alaska. You watch those shows in Alaska where they go out into the Bering Sea and catch fish. They have these trawl nets and they just pick up anything. They'll pick up crab, whatever, right? And then they'll like process it there on the ship, and they've got freezer vats for whatever they're pulling up, right? So there's a difference. Catching a tuna is targeting. Throwing out a trawl net, you'll catch a lot. And the social condition is the great trawl net. It's a great trawl net. So you can, it's like a blanket trauma. You go back to the 1970s when they talked about MK Ultra came out, right? Came out and they talked about it. They talked about the program, and MK Ultra was both. MK Ultra was targeted and it was a trawl net. Like the 60s were an MK Ultra operation trying to set that net out and catch as much as they possibly could. But they were also specifically going after big tuna. I went past the target a little. Okay. What's the target? Lay it on us, John. Lay it on us. Voice of God or something to get this kid. We're talking about synchromysticism. Synchromysticism. All right. I wasn't going to tell you this story, but I'm going to tell you this story because this gets into this idea of synchromysticism and entanglement. So when I went to the city council meeting on Monday night, I had a plan. I had a very specific plan, and it was a targeted plan. Okay, I was hunting for tuna, and my plan was to deliver a message that was in a third person voice. And the third person's voice was a letter from someone who experienced communism in Poland and what it was like to live under communism in Poland, and how that there was a snitch culture that was prevalent, and it devastated their society and their family, and how they pull people out at work, and how they would pull people out at home. So I read this letter from a friend of the family. Okay, that's what I did, and there was a specific reason why I was reading this, because there was a certain person inside of the city government who had his own, how shall we say this, very, very questionable relationship with somebody who is of Polish descent in another city, in another state, in this country. And as a result of this relationship, it severely damaged this woman, her reputation, her psyche, her emotions. She wound up suing said individual. She wound up suing said city government. She wound up suing another individual. And guess what? She won. She won. She won over $1 million plus $100,000 in back pay. And I know about this story. So said person is here in Fredericksburg. So I wanted to read a letter from a Polish friend who was essentially telling me how bad it was in communist Poland, right? That was my intention. Because there were two things that I wanted to do. Number one, I wanted to share this experience because it is actually very concurrent with our situation. Number two, it was eerily similar to this woman's experience in this other city, this other state, where this individual had previously worked. Now, one of the things that I've been thinking about, pondering in my head, was actually wearing a t-shirt with this woman's picture and her name on it, and going up there and putting it right front and center of the city council and said individual. But I decided not to do that. I just decided to read a letter from a friend from Poland. Well, guess what happens? I'll show you. I'll show you in kind of real. I'll show you when I get to the city council stuff. A guy shows up at the city council meeting. He's wearing a full-on face visor, like it's like a fucking welder's mask, but without the helmet, right? He's dressed in camo, and he's wearing a Trump hat, and he has a sign with this woman's face on the sign. And her story is on the sign, and he's holding it up the entire time at the city council meeting. Okay. This guy essentially executed everything that I was thinking about in my head. But I didn't do that. Instead, I decided to read a letter from a friend from Poland. And I talked to him afterwards, right? This is what you call quantum entanglement. This is quantum entanglement. And this gets into the kind of synchromistic sort of experience. And I'm telling you this story now, and I wasn't going to tell you until maybe about a week or two from now, because there's even more to the story, but I don't want to get into it. I'm telling you now because there's something at play and there's something at work that is much bigger than we can like locate, right? Like I was quantumly entangled with this guy and it happens. It happened. It's exactly what happened. You're all part of it. So I brought this kid's story up because if it's true and he did commit suicide, it is a byproduct of everything that's happened since March 13th. It is a byproduct of something that could have been changed. Those 2 executive orders could have been rescinded. The states could have had to answer to the federal government that somebody like Janet Mills would not be allowed to run the state of Maine like a fucking prison camp. We have it here in Texas. We're not immune to it. It's not just Maine. It's not just California. It's everywhere now. Everywhere. My son does remote learning. He hasn't gone to school one day since this whole thing started. Quite frankly, it's not the best solution, but based upon what I know about the environment of his school, I wouldn't want him to go there anyway. And this is a very difficult time to be a teen in America. And yet it's been allowed to happen. It's been allowed to take place. And there are casualties. And you may say that the tree of liberty must be fertilized, right? The tree, by blood sacrifice. This is not what the founding fathers had in mind when they offered up the assessment, or they offered up what might have to happen in order to keep this thing alive and free. This is not the kind of blood sacrifice they had in mind. If true, this boy's life, and others, by the way, that we haven't heard about. What about the guy that owned the bar in, was it Omaha? What about him? He defended his bar, right? He defended his bar. What happened? They were gonna fucking press charges on him, even though the district attorney said, well, he was practicing castle doctrine and defending his bar, which he was defending himself. He was being choked. He was being choked to death. But no. The local judge who was on the fucking hot seat there, I talked about this. Tucker Carlson talked about it too, but he didn't go as deep as I did. I looked at the judge. I looked at the judge's judgments against certain people in that community. And she was under the magnifying glass. She was being forced. Her hand was being forced to rule. And they bring this guy off the bench to be a special prosecutor. That dude leaves, and guess what? He kills himself. Okay. These are casualties. These are casualties of the state that we're in and have been in. Let's talk about the fires in Oregon, in California. Clearly started by, psychopathic mercenaries. What about the young boy who tried to save his grandmother? Guess what? They found him dead next to his dog. These are things that get swept under the rug and they're not talked about. But guess what we're talking about? The big, beautiful fucking vaccine it's in our future, okay? Operation Warp Speed. Oh, this is it now. Here we are. Look at that symbol. Would you look at that symbol? That is the symbol for Operation Warp Speed. It is a fucking Saturn hypercube. A Saturn hypercube with the crown sitting right in the center of it. And then you have the three black squares, which look eerily like the symbol for the Trilateral Commission. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars on the inside, and then you've got 8 stars on the outside, right? That's 13. Those are 13 stars. The winged black cube. I think the three stripes on the side represent military. Those look like sergeant stripes. Operation Warp Speed. So what's happening with some of these people that are being injected with this lovely, beautiful, fantastic vaccine? I'll show you. Warning over UK vaccine rollout as 2 NHS staff given jab suffer an anaphylactic reaction. Regulators urge people with history of significant allergies not to have Pfizer injection, just 24 hours after Britain's mass inoculation kicked off. Both the people who are recovering following the first day of mass vaccination program, it is understood. In the U.S. vaccine trial carried out by Pfizer 137, around 19,000 people given vaccine had a reaction. The NHS in England said that all the trusts involved in the vaccination program have been informed. MHRA has given advice anyone who has a history of significant allergic reaction not get the vaccine. Yesterday, NHS embarked on its colossal plan to vaccinate the entire UK population against coronavirus. They're already having, and these are the ones that they're reporting. Okay, these are the ones that they're reporting. Both unnamed healthcare workers needed immediate treatment, but are recovering well. It is not known if either person needed to use the EpiPens they both carry with them. Just the tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg. Spencer Smith. So, what is the Twitter chatter? What is the Twitter chatter around the vaccine? I'm sure there's some. What is Trump saying about the vaccine? Well, let's see. Germany has consistently been used by my obnoxious critics as the country we should follow on the way to handle the China virus. So much for that argument. I love Germany. Vaccines on the way. Merkel pleading with people to cut down on socializing as Germany records 590. So Trump has theoretically done this 180. You know, whatever happened to hydroxychloroquine, whatever happened to Regeneron, whatever happened to ivermectin. Now, look, I know, the NDAA. Oh, look at this. The House passes the NDAA with a veto-proof majority. Fantastic. Fan-fucking-tastic. Great. Keep the spine going. Whatever happened to all those wonderful alternatives to the vaccine? Now, if you are in the know with the whole vaccine trip. Well, they're just going to use this vaccine and Operation Warp Speed to snatch the bad people. Okay. We're going to find out real fast how truthful that axiom is, or truthful that how should we say this, rationalization of what's about to take place is. We're going to find out. And by the way, let me tell you, it doesn't matter whether it's Trump or Joe Biden or Joe King Carrasco or whoever is president. They are going to do this thing. They're going to do it. It is a global mandate. Global mandate. So we're going to find out very quickly where this thing's going. Now, then we bring it back to Alex Jones and talking about martial law. Oh, Alex Jones making a case for martial law. So let's see. Now, we got martial law in the air, and we also have Operation Warp Speed in the air as well. What happens when you do the math on that? It gets a little sketchy, doesn't it? A little sketchy. Again, I'm not opposed to martial law. I'm not, but not as a reaction to what's already taken place. It should have been proactive, and none of this would have happened. None of this. None of it. Then the argument is like, well, if this didn't happen, people wouldn't wake up. That's not true. It could have happened, and then with sense and rationality and order, you could have stated the facts. Done. Now, people do, unfortunately, learn through crisis in ways that they may not learn through being sort of shown or taught or given. Unfortunately, that's how we've been wired. So, we're headed towards a crisis. We're headed towards a crisis at warp speed. Okay. But I told you that story for a reason, because there's a level of quantum entanglement that's happening right now that will never reach the mainstream media. Never. There are things happening in ways that are so unpredictable and really, really in our favor. When I say our favor, I'm talking about humanity. I'm not talking about any select group. All right, where else do I want to go? Oh, I wanted to show this to you from yesterday. And I was trying to find this thing with Brian Kemp. God, these fucking people. Right, let's go. Come on. Share my screen. Yeah, here we go. Come on. All right, now I'm having an issue with the transmission. Well, that's interesting. Google Chrome is not responding. I'm back. Let's try it again. That was interesting. So here we go. Governor Kemp met with Consul General Li Qingmin at rumored Chinese spy hub and consulate in Houston on July 29th. So July 12th, he meets. July 29th, Georgia signs contract for Dominion voting. There you go. That was from yesterday. I wanted to point that out. Wait, there's more. We got a lot more to cover here. A lot more. So this is really kind of out of the twilight zone. And while the mRNA vaccinations that are theoretically meant for us, which produce at the very least anaphylactic shock. What is this? Hold on. Anaphylactic shock, right? The very least anaphylactic shock. Perhaps more. Apparently, the Chinese are getting a very different kind of RNA vaccine. Now, this is out of the realm of science fiction and the realm of the super soldier. China developing biologically enhanced snipers who can see twice as far as the human being. I don't think this is that far off the mark, by the way. Now, you got John Ratcliffe talking about this. So, China's working on creating a league of super soldiers with enhanced eyesight and strength, U.S. experts believe. Do you think China's the only one that has this? No. In an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Ratcliffe said China has been using the gene editing tool CRISPR to modify human embryos. And they're very big on that, the Chinese. They're very big on CRISPR. They don't have the same kinds of theoretical moral guidelines here that we do, theoretical. To modify human embryos to breed military personnel capable of fighting harder, longer, and more efficiently. The allegation was met with shock and widespread disbelief. But now more intelligence experts have corroborated that it's more than possible, and the ramifications could be severe. I don't think it's out of the question. But look at that. They're wearing masks. They're good order followers. They all look the same. Don't these guys look alike? And I mean that, not in that kind of pejorative, they all look alike, but they really look alike, right? They really look alike with the eyebrows and everything. So there's a little Marvel Comics sci-fi angle to this whole thing. Crazy, huh? Meanwhile, we get the other shot. We get the other shot. Now, I just have to bring this up too. This is the land of inversion we're living in. When I read this blew my mind. This really blew my mind. Here's a list of crimes on LA's new DA's do not prosecute list. So there's Eric Garcetti with the big fat virtue signal. Big fat virtue signal. George Gascon, Los Angeles County's new head prosecutor, unveiled an agenda Monday that will usher in changes to the local criminal justice system by his refusal to prosecute certain crimes on top of other sweeping changes. Gascon, a former San Francisco district attorney and former LA police officer, announced in a series of policy directives that many misdemeanor cases will be dismissed, saying that nearly half of those incarcerated in pretrial misdemeanor offenses suffer from mental illness. Oh, okay, so we're going to excuse their behavior because they're just mentally unfit. Los Angeles County Court should not be revolving doors to those in need of treatment and services. What a cuck. So this is if you want to get into trouble in LA, this is what you're allowed to do now. Many misdemeanor cases will be declined or dismissed prior to arraignment unless factors for considerations exist. So it is not a blanket, and it is not a blanket series of misdemeanor dismissions, right? Or dismissed misdemeanors. The list of offenses includes trespassing, disturbing the peace, a minor in possession of alcohol, driving without a license. Okay. I'm sure that if you are perhaps in a particular group and you're driving without a license, well, that's a factor to be considered. If you're another group, drive without a license, well, that's a factor to be considered too. Drive with suspended license. You drive a suspended license, Well, gee, what factors should we consider there? Making criminal threats. Oh, you make a criminal threat like you're threatening to kill somebody, and we're not going to prosecute it unless there's a factor to be considered. Drug and paraphernalia possession. Nope. Unless there's certain factors to be considered. Under the influence of a controlled substance. Okay. Public intoxication. All right. Luring to commit prostitution. And resisting arrest. Oh, well, that's a misdemeanor. So now you can resist arrest and not face the penalty. Unless, of course, there are other factors to consider. For juveniles, those accused of misdemeanors will no longer be prosecuted. In addition, prosecutors will not seek the death penalty, and those accused of misdemeanors, low-level felonies, will be referred to community-based programs. They will no doubt be given incentives, debit cards, loaded at the local Nike store. I mean, this is the Los Angeles Police Protective League. The union represents rank and file officers criticize new policies. And there's Eric Garcetti. Eric Garcetti is not who he says he is. Let's just leave it at that. Let's see. What else do I have? What else do I have? Let's get into some of the Facebook stuff, and then I'm going to get out of here. Okay, so let me do this. And this is really going over. This is all public. Oh, before I do, I have to show you this one thing. This is crazy. Somebody sent me this one. Where's the messages? Hold on a second. Somebody sent me this piece here today. It's nuts. It's nuts. I got to show you this to you guys. So let me see if I can go back and find this. This is totally insane. All right. So I'm reading a Facebook post, and then I'm gonna just do a quick little Facebook dive here. You gotta see this. I've been going back to Facebook a little bit more lately. You gotta check this out. So listen. So Texas State Representative Terry Meza, Democrat Irving, has introduced HB 196. All right, check this out. Her bill would repeal the state's castle doctrine. This doctrine allows a homeowner to use deadly force against an armed intruder who breaks into his home. Now, here's what she says. I'm not saying that stealing is okay. All I'm saying, wrap your heads around this, is that it doesn't warrant a death penalty. Thieves only carry weapons for self-protection and to provide the householder an incentive to cooperate. They just want to get their loot and get away. When the resident tries to resist is when people get hurt. If only one side is armed, fewer people will get killed. Meza was quick to reassure that her bill would not totally prevent homeowners from defending themselves. Under the new law, the homeowner's obligation is to flee the home at the first sign of intrusion. If fleeing is not possible, he or she must cooperate with the intruder. But if violence breaks out, it is in the homeowner's responsibility to make sure no one gets hurt. The best way to achieve this is to use the minimum non-lethal force possible, because intruders will be able to sue for any injuries they receive at the hands of the homeowner. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? In most instances, the thief needs the money more than the homeowner does. The homeowner's insurance, we reimburse his losses. On balance, the transfer of property is likely to lead to a more equitable distribution of wealth. If my bill can help this transfer a peaceful one, so much the better. Okay, so I went to Terry Mezza's page. I mean, this is the epitome of insanity. I went to her page. You want to see who endorses Terry Mezza? Take a look. Those are her handlers. These are the people that are sponsoring her bill. You want to meet Terry? There she is. Hi, I'm Terry. I'm Terry. Irving is more than just a place I live. It is part of who I am. My family has been here for 5 generations. I am proud to be 4th generation Irvingite and have a son that is 5th generation. I grew up in a military family. Oh boy. There's always that kind of military certification. And now everybody fucking wears the mask as a virtue signal. Visiting my grandparents' farm, where MacArthur High now sits, I used to visit Dad's barbershop. Well, Dad's barbershop is now closed. Okay? It's not essential. On Irving Boulevard with Mom, hoping to get a treat from Mrs. Cartwright at her bakery next door. Mrs. Cartwright's bakery, it's fucking closed. This is really my home. My mom made sure I received a good education and understood supports. My dad opened my eyes to what democracy is all about. Building bridges, not walls. I continued my study at the socialist, communist-run colleges and universities known as UT Arlington, University of Dallas, and finally Texas Wesleyan School of Law. For somebody who has all this education, she comes off sounding like an utter fool. She's a small business owner. Oh, good. Right. So a law practice is a small business. That looks like a dude, by the way. Doesn't that look like a dude? That looks like a dude. At least in that picture. I'm a community activist. Oh, great. Whenever someone called my office in need of an advocate, my immediate response was, "Where are you off of I-20? It did not matter. I would drive all over West Texas to help. I was still and am committed to fighting discrimination in schools, the workplace, from exclusion to disproportionate punishment." She's partnered with organizations like the Lions Club, LULAC, on and on and on and on. Okay, those are bona fides. I'm your state representative. This looks like she's at a cemetery, doesn't it? Maybe, I don't know. My God. Of course she's wearing purple. That's a scary fucking picture. I'm sorry. That is a scary picture. There you go. There is the woman who is has this great idea to eliminate castle doctrine. Now, the one thing I will say about the state of Texas is that the state legislature is loaded with Republicans. Okay, now that doesn't mean that they're always going to vote Republican. All right, because they're a bunch of fucking turncoats anyway. But I think she's having a bit of an uphill battle. But as we've seen, a lot of these uphill battles have been won. Let me go back into Facebook one more time and let me show you. I needed to show you that. That was just nuts. So I'm going to show you a couple of things from the meeting. Here we go. So this was the, let me see if we can do the Zoom rundown here. So I'm going to go over some of the comments, okay? Because I think that they're noteworthy for a number of reasons. So here we go. Let's take a look at some of these comments. View more comments. So first of all, we have this guy, Joshua Dobbs. I'm glad that at the end of the day, our leaders listen to medical professionals instead of whiny citizens who refuse to take common sense measures to keep other people safe. Science over selfishness. All right, so this guy is interesting. Now, he claims he's a master of karate. If you're a master of karate, you don't fucking admit you're a master of karate, okay? You don't admit that. You don't. You don't admit you're a master of karate. Sorry. Fail. Let's look at some of these other comments. Maybe we need to change our city limit so the flock can leave their home safely. I have no idea what she means by that. Mary is a wise woman. She says, whether you have COVID or not, tattletale is never the answer. We are adults who can make our own decisions. Never the answer? Never really. So if you know or highly suspect your neighbors are selling meth, you shouldn't tattletale. That's a different issue altogether. If you know your husband or best friend is having an affair, you shouldn't tattletale. Oh, let's conflate everything, Jeannie. Beth Ann McDonald says, Jeannie, Warrington, reporting illegal activity is absolutely not the same as reporting a business for operating in a way they see fit. Good for you. Good for you. So here's this one guy I want to bring up. Maybe he removed all of his posts. Oh, he did. Oh, here he is. This guy, Brandon Vineyard. The solution is for citizens to do the bare minimum of what is asked of them. What are you expecting the city to do? They try something and people lose their minds. Okay, so he starts. So then he says, anyone else you wish you could add gifts to this thread? It would be way more entertaining. Oh, he's just getting on a roll. So this is, I believe, where somebody was talking about how long they've been here in this city, right? This guy's not even from here. He's from Steelville, Illinois. Is there a point to this or just a family tree lecture? Oh, he's getting snarkier and snarkier and snarkier, right? What people are overreacting to opinions that be and taking as gospel? No way. At least the mayor provides comic relief. What else you see? Can't just agree to take it down and cut this meeting short. It's getting repetitive. Love that someone is coughing and the mic is picking it up. Laugh out loud. What else does he have to say? I wish I could make out the sign the guy is holding. Yeah, I knew what it's about. They're not working because they're to slow the spread. Until everyone wears a mask, you can't say that they don't work. It's not slow to stop, but continue. He goes on and on and on. On and on and on. Right? On and on. And most of the people here who are dismissive of what was going on, and this guy, he's basically saying, wear the fucking mask. He lives in Austin. He doesn't even live in Fredericksburg. Right? Most of these people were at home watching this thing. They're at home. They're not at the meeting. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why. You know why? Because they're fucking cowards. That's why. They're fucking cowards. They'll sit home and they'll type in their little comments and they'll be snarky, right? And they'll justify whatever kind of, little brother police state tactic that they've got going on in their head. But they won't walk down there. They won't drive down there. They won't confront the people who are actually getting out there, giving out their address to the people who are sitting in front of them, because you have to do that, right? These people are taking a risk. But these lame ass cowards will sit at home and pontificate and judge. Why? Besides the fact that they're being cowards. Well, because they do the right thing. They do the right thing. They went to the right school. They got the right degree. They married the right person. They got the right investment banker. They bought the right property. They just checked all those boxes. They checked into the Hotel Saturn. And they're not going to upset the apple cart. They are going to support the status quo no matter what, because that's what supported them. These people have never taken a real fucking risk in their lives. Never. And if they've taken a risk, it's been a calculated risk. Calculated. And so they can stay home and they can type their little snarky comments, but they're not down there. They're not down there at all. There's a reason why. They're scared. They're scared because they would have to face those people in the lobby who are not scared. Now, they may not be completely informed, but they're not scared. And they're pissed. And they want to do something about it. And those people typing their little snarky comments do not want to have any kind of confrontation. That's why they support their little snitch line. So they can get on there and snitch people out. That's where we are. That's where we are. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the state's cases against the states, right? So we have Texas, we have, I believe, Louisiana, a couple other states. They are suing Pennsylvania, Michigan. So we're now in a civil war. This has become a legal civil war. Sam Alito dismissed the GOP's case against Pennsylvania, dismissed it. There was no dissent whatsoever. None. There's no dissenting opinion, just a flat out dismissal. Now, is it because they're clearing the decks for the states now to come to the Supreme Court and honor? And I do believe that the states probably have more standing than the GOP. That's what I think. Just from a legal perspective, they probably have more standing. Why? Because what happens in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Arizona and Georgia, in North Carolina, it impacts the theoretical union, right? So the states have more standing, in my estimation, with the Supreme Court. Now, whether it's going to be another dog and pony show while the Chiron and Aries army rolls out onto the streets and Alex Jones gets his wet dream of martial law, that's a whole other thing altogether. But that's what's happening now. All right, so the unfounded rumor that I did want to leave you with is that apparently, this comes from Rick Wiles. He was talking about this yesterday. He says he knows somebody very high in the Secret Service intelligence community, and he said that they have everything on Joe Biden. They have wire transfers from China to Hunter to Joe Biden. It is a lock, stock, and barrel deal on Biden. They have him. They have him in the crosshairs. And apparently they are going to arrest Joe Biden. This comes from Rick Wiles, and Rick doesn't like to traffic in this stuff. He doesn't, and I like Rick. I also think there's some gray areas around Rick, like his super fancy, $200,000 plus studio. But I do like, he does good research. He got kicked off of YouTube. I guess that's a badge of honor. So the other piece of this story is that there were 3 laptops that were left at that computer repair place. By the way, that guy's gone. He's gone. He's disappeared. 1 laptop belonged to Hunter Biden. The other 2 laptops belonged to his business partners. Hunter Biden dropped all 3 off there. Now, the question is why? Why did he drop all 3 off there? Well, the theory is that he dropped them off there not to be worked on, but to be held. And that apparently Hunter Biden had a relationship with that computer repair guy. Like they knew each other. It's in Delaware. And that after they were there for an extended period of time, the guy got in and cracked the laptops open and saw things that he didn't need to see or want to see. And that they were incriminating, deeply incriminating, like child pornography. So Giuliani got the hard drives, the FBI got the laptops, or Giuliani got copies of the hard drives. So this is the word on the street, is that Biden is going to recapitulate. This is not a concession. It is a recapitulation. And that this was the interesting part, that he asked this guy, who apparently is, Uncle Intel, if the Trump family or Trump knew about this, and apparently the guy knew somebody inside the Trump family. Not a lot of choices or options there. And he said that they knew nothing about this, which means that either Trump is not telling his kids or that even Trump doesn't know about what's to go down. So file that away. And if it does go down, there's going to be fire on the streets in America. Because they're going to have it. They're going to have it. And this thing has to happen apparently before the 14th. Because Biden cannot be confirmed nor inaugurated. Because if that happens, then they can remove Biden, they can arrest him, and then Kamala Harris, Hamilton moves into the top slot, right? That's how that works. So I'm just telling this to you. This is something you go find True News. You go look it up. I'm just sharing with you what I saw this morning. So it's in the wind. All right. A lot was covered today. We started off with the tragedy. Again, if this is real, it's not some kind of LARP. The tragedy of Spencer Smith and the suicide that went along with that, and him being a casualty of what's happened and hasn't happened since 3/11/313 in this country. And I took you on a tour of the Confederacy of the Dunces, okay? Just to point certain things out. It's important. Have to do it. But I also shared with you a very important story about quantum entanglement. And I want you to just kind of wrap your heads around that. That there is a quantum reality. There is an alternative reality that we are participating in, even if we are not aware of it at the time. Quantum entanglement, where people are working together and doing things. We're like quarks. We're like quarks that ultimately become self-aware of the quirkiness of our existence. Don't forget that. It's important. It's really important. And don't forget to take care of yourself. Here's the Virgo in me. Take your D, take your K, take your zinc. It's really, really good. Selenium is really good, right? Good stuff. Take care of your body. It's important. It is the temple of your soul, and you do not want to get sick. You don't want to get sick. You don't want to have some kind of bacterial infection. You don't want to have some fungal overgrowth. You don't want your immune system to be compromised and run down, right? Stay strong, stay fit. Okay, I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. Chatlandia, you're the best. You're a microcosm. You're a microcosm of the emerging macrocosm. And the emerging macrocosm is conscious, it's aware, it's multidimensional, and it is far more powerful than the limiting cages that they wish to put us in. The limiting cages that they wish to put us in. Remember that. All right. Have a great day. Bye for now.